The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday, the beginning of a new week in the Riv. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
And we're already starting out with a bang.
That's right. And we got a very hot and humid week coming up.
Yes, we do.
So everybody take care, hydrate, keep your dogs out of the cars.
Well, you know, now that you mentioned dogs, I'm getting tired of seeing these little puppies, these little dogs, walking across the asphalt when it's 80 and 90 degrees outside. That asphalt's 150, 160 degrees. Those poor little things' feet is burning.
No, you're right. They should put the owner's face on the asphalt, see how they like it.
Let them walk around barefoot for a while and see what it's like. You know, I mean.
I know, you're right. But we digress. So
yes, we did.
Let's get down to.
This just appeared in the Boston Globe, so I thought this was very interesting.
Not in the sterile news.
Not in the sterile news.
Yet.
God forbid it appear in the sterile news. It's been nearly 70 years since the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court has removed a district attorney from elected office. Now, the brother of a man who was killed by Fall River police officer in November is petitioning the court to wield that power again. In a complaint filed last month with the SJC attorney, Eric B. Mack called for the ouster of Bristol County District Attorney Thomas M. Quinn III, alleging that he has placed his political and personal interests above his obligations to be impartial. Quinn, who strongly denies the allegations contained in the petition, investigated the fatal shooting by police of Mack's brother, Anthony Harden, 30, and concluded it was a justified use of deadly force. Quinn said the officer opened fire after Harden repeatedly attempted to stab her partner in the head and neck with a knife. Mack's complaint disputed the official account of the confrontation and asserted that Quinn presides over an office bound by corruption and abuse of power. That's a strong statement.
Wow.
Corruption and abuse of power.
Very strong.
He also accuses Quinn of covering up details about a fatal police shooting in 2017 and refusing to investigate a Fall River detective suspected of providing drugs to an informant, among other allegations. And how many times have we spoken about the drugs?
Wait a minute. Didn't they have a documentary where the detectives actually said they provided drugs?
As a matter of fact, one of those detectives was Alan Sylvia.
Yes. And they actually said that on the documentary.
That's right. And so Attorney Mack says his relationship with the police supersedes his relationship to the citizens of Bristol County. Mack, 41, who lives in Fall River, said in an interview he's willing to cover up for cops. This is getting to be an interesting case.
Well,
and I'm going to tell you now, with a complaint like this being filed during an election season,
yeah,
this is fodder for a lot
of
candidates now.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, because again, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's been 70 years since the SJC's removed the district attorney.
Well, you have to realize that the SJC is a political body too.
Right.
I keep saying, especially in Massachusetts, because those are appointed positions. They get appointed by politicians.
Right.
They kowtow to politicians. They rule in favor of politicians. And they've done that fundamentally. That's why they want to stack the Supreme Court. They want the Supreme Court of the United States to be a political arm. They will only make rulings in favor of the party, and that's the problem. But you know, this complaint is pretty scathing. It makes a lot of serious allegations, and everybody is entitled to due process, obviously. But they said a lot of the facts of the case were not revealed. People are going to be interested to see all these facts,
right, and
to determine. But when you look at this in the context of all the problems we're having in the police department, it seems that, the attitude that we should have some kind of outside entity come in and evaluate all these particular law enforcement groups, really is getting a lot of momentum, I think. A lot of people are saying it's time, and that is no aspersion on the new chief.
No, it's
obviously.
not. And people have been asking for a citizens review board for a while.
Yeah.
Now, I know that New York has one, and the police department in New York hates to have anything reviewed by the citizen review board. They feel that the citizen review board does not have the experience to review actions and processes by the police department.
Yeah. Well, they have a point to a degree, without a doubt, because obviously, if you get a review board made up of people who live in $1 million estates and live a protected life, and then you expect them to evaluate a life or death situation that instantaneous decisions have to be made, where there is no right or wrong answer, but there are consequences for every action. That's difficult. And
right.
They may not have the perspective necessary, but there are other cases where obviously maybe you need another. And of course, it's always, and that's the problem. The problem is politics. You and I know that.
Right.
The problem here is these things can work positively or negatively, but it all gets down to politics, because who appoints the boards? Politicians. So these boards, most of them are really rubber stamps, non-functioning, because the reality is it's political. They want to make sure that they control the narrative, and they appoint boards who are going to basically do what they want to do.
Well, and you have firsthand experience with that. We've seen it go on with the fire commission and with the police commission.
Yeah.
We've had both of them for years. They never met. But when they did meet, they were going after somebody like they did to you. Okay? So.
Yeah, obviously. And again, I said board makeup.
Yep.
When you look at the difference in Boston, the fire commissioner in Boston, of course, they changed that because politics, ultimately. But for decades, the fire commissioner in Boston had to have 10 years as a chief officer in order to be appointed as fire commissioner in Boston. 10 years as a chief officer in Boston most of the time. They were mostly Boston chiefs. So they understood the department that they were a commissioner of.
And that makes sense.
And it does.
That makes perfect sense.
But when the commissioners stood up and sided with the rank and file when they cut manpower, of course the politicians then got rid of them, and now they had a retired naval officer. It was like the Board of Fire Commissioners in Fall River. Yeah, you'd go in there, and they were nothing more than a political extension of the mayor. They were cover for the mayor. When the mayor wanted to screw somebody, they did it, and it wasn't the mayor. Because who did we have? We had a bus driver,
A bartender.
and a housewife.
There you go.
And then we had somebody else that did something else. But you had three people who knew, they didn't even know that we had different size hoses on a truck. A pump. Trucks, again, jargon of the fire service, a truck is a ladder company.
Right.
But when you get commissioners who know absolutely nothing about public safety, and you make them public safety commissioners. Now, I know the police had a few people who had police experience, but historically the fire department always had people that had absolutely no understanding of the fire service. So it makes these things impotent. But this is politics. They spin everything. But this, like you said, we've got the drugs in the drawer still not finished. And like I said, this really isn't, directed at the new chief or even the older chief. The fact is, it's very difficult to come up through the ranks because you make friends and you have enemies, and anything you do to shake up will be looked at, and they can accuse you of saying, well, you did that because that guy wasn't your friend, or you did it because he was your friend. And realistically, when something gets as out of hand as this seems to be, the best way to do it is to relieve the chief of that, let him remain as the chief, bring in an outside authority, let the guy review it, and the chief can have his input into that review. But now you got a guy that doesn't know anybody. Like they did in Cranston.
Right.
You bring somebody in, he knows nobody. He just looks at it and he's calling the balls and strikes like he sees them, with no objectively, not subjectively, because he worked with this guy for 25 years, or he worked with this guy for 15 years, or it was the same unit. And that's the key. The key is when we see some of the stuff that's going on, it seems that, you know, there's a loss of control. And of course, when you've got the mummy mayor, that's another one, I got to put that one down. The mummy mayor, who never says anything about anything, will never come out and say, look, this is what we're doing in the police department, but, you know, we're going to try to do this, this, and the other thing. Everything is hidden, like his, remember that reorg he was going to do? Mm-hmm. I got the word that they're still going to bring that guy over from New Bedford. They're just pulling the old, keep your head down, shut your mouth, and everybody will forget. And then later on, when all the dust settles, we'll slide this guy right back, right in here. And this is what happens, because politics, the people do not matter. Right or wrong doesn't matter. It's what was ever This morning I heard another ridiculous thing. I saw a Democratic operative, the way they manipulate facts. You know, the old saying, figures don't lie, but liars can figure. He was happy as a clam. Oh, we're doing great. We're doing great, he said. Listen to this spin. We've had the largest reduction in gas prices in over a decade.
What planet is he living on?
But it's true. But take it into context. See, that's their new thing. Look what we're doing. We've dropped the prices. Well, of course you had, because we had the highest gas prices in history.
That's right.
So even though it's gone down more than it has in the last decade, it couldn't go down anymore because it was down pretty low.
That's right.
So you manipulate the number and you come up with something like that absurd statement. And half of the wokies are going to believe, oh, yeah, you know, that's the old con. Raise it to $5 and everybody's happy when it gets down to $4, but they forgot it used to be $2.
That's right.
And this is what they do. This is what they do. They manipulate. You know, they're not saying, he didn't say, oh, by the way, the average income has been reduced 4.4%.
And inflation has been increased.
And inflation is up to 9.1%.
Yeah.
Oh, but by the way, gas has gone down the most it has in a decade, of course, because it was at the highest price in history. And guess what? Right after that, the next story. Biden, he made a deal with the Saudis.
Yeah.
Increased their oil production. Why? Because of the midterm.
Right.
That's all they're going to do. Because what's going to happen after the midterm's over? They're going to forget it and jack up the prices all over again because they don't want gas-operated cars in the United States. These people are so obvious, and people don't understand that. I mean, look at what's going on. It's outrageous how badly they're destroying the average person's life. 2 out of 3 people are living paycheck to paycheck. If we wait a little bit longer, you know, it's like it'll be 2 7/8 people out of 3. If we can get 7/8 of a person. But, I mean, it's ludicrous. You look at this stuff and you go, God, you know, how dumb are the people? But they're getting pissed. I'm telling you, they're going to be coming out to vote.
You want to see how ludicrous it is?
Yep.
Okay, you know that the House and the Senate are proposing a bill to increase subsidies to semiconductor creators, the companies that make semiconductors, because of the shortage we have in the country. Well, before that bill was introduced, Paul Pelosi went out
and bought a bunch of stuff.
Bought a bunch of stock in NVIDIA, the country's largest semiconductor producer. And then the bill came out, and all of a sudden, the stock went through the roof.
He's a billionaire.
Yes. It's amazing how this works.
Nancy and Paulie, the drunk driver.
Yep.
who got, by the way, didn't get a felony charge and should have, and all the DA won't release anything, the breathalyzer, anything, because Paul Pelosi is a entitled, rich, and that's what happens. But I mean, there's no concern for the average person. Nobody cares. We're just like dirt under their feet.
That's right.
Nobody cares. It's just like now. We look at what's happening in the police department. Apparently, Paul doesn't care the fact that, you know, cases are being dropped. You know, crime is rampant in this city, but he keeps saying it's a safe city, even though we're #1. So everybody's lying. And look what happens. And look at what they do with the contracts. Now there's a rumor that there's somebody out there who's, again, running out this comp. Who in God's name negotiates your contracts? They have no consideration for how much money it costs the taxpayer. I mean, look, I negotiate contracts for a long time. I know what you get. I have never seen anything like some of this stuff. You got a guy, allegedly, who is running out his comp time, and they said it's perfectly legal, and I've got to get the contract because I got to read it. I don't know how, because #1, you should never have unlimited comp time accrual.
That's right.
Because there has to be a provision where at some point in time you take it, you use it, or you lose it, and you're only given so much time that you can buy back. And that is obviously something that anybody that knows how to negotiate and knows about the financial impacts of contracts would do, but apparently they don't.
But that's because our city doesn't cost out their contracts.
You're right, they don't. And,
That's the problem.
They're supposed to by law.
That's right.
But let's carry this out. Now, this guy's running off his time. Now, we had another guy they were complained about 2 years he was going to do it. Mm-hmm. Now, this guy supposedly is being paid at a higher rank than he actually is. I don't know if that's true. It's an allegation. But here's the good one. He's working as a full-time, get ready for it, dean of students at a charter school. So taxpayers of Fall River, what they put in the contract is, look, nobody minds paying the guy for when he's working. This guy's off the books. He's running out his comp time while he's getting 100% of his pay, 100% of his benefits from the taxpayer, and he's a dean of students at a charter school.
And remember,
do you really think that's fair to the people? Do you think that's fair? Nobody. There's no oversight. There's no oversight. The council, for the most part, has their head so far up their derriere, they don't know what they're approving. I think the only person who questioned this was Michelle Dion. What a surprise. Mm-hmm. The only person to question it. They go to these contracts, rubber stamp. Oh, public safety. They'll say we don't like public safety. You don't dislike public safety when you stop these ridiculous abuses. Unlimited. And here's the other problem that everybody doesn't realize. Because I fought for this for years. I used to do the same thing in a fight. We didn't have that kind of unlimited buyback stuff, but we still had people that had vacation accrual, which everybody gets to a degree. But they would not put anybody on until they paid these people off because they weren't costed into the contract.
Now.
So now when this guy is out working a full-time job and getting pretty good money, because we all know that when you got a title like Dean of Students, you're not getting chump change.
That's right.
Okay? So you're working a full-time job, you're getting holiday, all your other benefits, because you're still on a book, supposedly. And you're still on the books for what, years? Years. That means if this guy was a sergeant or a lieutenant, somebody has to be promoted, well, not really promoted, they're made acting, they can't be made permanent because the vacancy, according to them, doesn't exist.
Right.
But it does, because the guy's retired.
Right.
And I used to fight that tooth and nail, because I used to tell the fire department, this guy is not on a fire department anymore. This guy is no longer, we had people that were retired. But now what they do is they don't officially retire them until they run all their time out. That's just a trick.
Right.
And so you're getting all this money, and then there's no question of limiting this stuff, no question of doing this. Look, we've had this stuff for years. The school teachers have had buyback of their sick leave up to X amount of days for a certain percentage of what the buy is. This is standard contract language. But because these things have become political organizations and they lobby, they get these benefits which are just, they're crazy.
Well, the interesting thing is, state employees don't have unlimited comp time. We have to use comp time by a certain date. We hear it all the time from our producer. He has to take time, otherwise he loses it. And you lose it. It should be the same in the Fall River Police Department. Okay? You don't use your time by June 30th, you lose it. That's it, you lose it. You had the opportunity to use it, you lose it. This accrual for time immemorial is ridiculous.
No, you're right. Look, when I worked for the federal government, and I did work for the federal government, and I would have never gone on the fire department, they closed the damn base, unfortunately. It was a great job because the feds' money, they just print their own money. I was making terrific money. So, but they closed the base, but we had, on the federal government, and I was a union steward, I was involved in a union there. We had accrued sick leave, buyback provision, but you could only buy back X amount of days. So we had guys that went 20 years without taking a sick day, then they had to use those 6 days because they'd lose them.
Right.
Same thing with comp days, same thing with personal days, et cetera, et cetera. You just don't have, well, your last 5 years on a job, forget it. Just don't take anything, take all comp days, and then you're gonna be going out and making your full salary while you got a full-time job.
Right.
That's crazy. I'm sorry. I mean, they complain about double dipping. I mean, look, you worked for the city, you got your benefits, you're okay. And nobody's saying you shouldn't. I negotiated vacation buybacks, personal day buybacks, and all these buybacks. But they all had time certains, they all had limits, they had limitations, they had stipulations. It's not like, just keep piling them up, pal, and when you get finished, we'll look and go, holy moly, you got like 3 years worth of comp days, so go take a walk, get another job, and get your pay.
Right.
And that's crazy.
But this is Paulie No Nuts. These are the contracts that he approves. These are the contracts that he sends down to the city council for their approval.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the last contract that the police department had before this one was not negotiated by Paul. So I will give him that as an out for the unlimited buyback. But in this contract, did they take it out?
No.
No. So, Paulie No Nuts, once again, it's your fault.
Yeah, you're right. But look, even if it wasn't the old contract, a mayor with cojones would have said, listen, we're going to reopen. We can't have this anymore. But he doesn't do anything.
No.
The city council sent him an ordinance back in 20, I believe, to say, stop picking up private trash.
That's right.
It's costing the taxpayers money. We're paying for that. We're paying for this because we have to pay for their trash that's weighed and we pay for. And they are supposed to have private vendors.
Correct. And
those same councilors, except for Michelle Dion, the same councilors who said stop, they sent him when he likes to send all his, like Colin, cease and desist. Mm-hmm. They sent him fundamentally a cease and desist resolution about picking up business trash.
Right.
And you know what he did with it? Nothing. We're still picking up business trash.
Well, and what's interesting is...
And we're still paying for it.
Right. And what's interesting is when that was brought up to Seth Akins during a city council meeting recently, he said, well, that's left to the trash committee for them to make the decision. The trash committee voted unanimously to stop collecting commercial trash.
The trash commission voted unanimously.
Yep.
And
the city council did?
City council sent them a thing. And what did Paulie, what's his nickname?
Paulie No Nuts.
Okay. Yeah, okay. But it could be Paulie Donuts too now, because I hear He's been cited at virtually every breakfast place in Fall River. For our full-time mayor, the non-ceremonial mayor who does nothing but ceremonial ribbon cutting, has been cited at a lot of these things. So his trash committee, which, by the way, if you read the write-up on a committee, they're answerable to the mayor.
Correct.
And they're also appointed by the mayor.
Correct.
So what a crock that is. This is another spin like, oh, gas prices have gone down the most in a decade. Of course, they're the highest in history. So, but this whole thing is, again, we have a mayor that does absolutely nothing to control spending. As a matter of fact, he's one of the biggest spendthrifts we've ever had as the mayor. And then he ignores every major problem that continues to erode your wallet.
He also
You
ignores
said,
the
well,
law.
it's the trash committee. Trash committee voted to get rid. Stop it. And then one of the wimpies said, oh, they might sue us. Well, maybe we're going to sue them maybe if we can raise the money. And that's the thing. The thing is that, you know what he's saying? Screw the taxpayers.
That's right.
That's what he's saying. Screw you. I don't care.
I think I'm going to have
Maybe we should really go down and get that list of 261 or something like that. They were saying 266, but I heard it. They readjusted it to 261. But whatever, it's over. Let's see how many of those donate to his campaign.
That's right.
So, yeah, just keep picking it up. Let them complain. Just keep your mouth shut. It'll go away. They'll be on to the next thing they're complaining about. And we're still going to be picking their pocket. If you think this individual who walked around for 30 years with his hands in his pocket, collected a paycheck, and didn't care about anything, cares about you as a taxpayer, you're crazy.
He doesn't know what it means to work a job in a real job.
I think somebody actually said that.
Yes,
Somebody
he's
called
never
that
worked
up.
in the private sector. And that's the problem, because in the private sector, you're expected to deliver. In government jobs, you're not expected to deliver anymore. You're just expected to show up, collect your paycheck, shut up, and leave. And that's a sad thing. Something that came up, we don't have a lot of time, so we'll have to talk about it again in the future, but people are saying how they're focusing on bringing market rate housing to downtown to improve downtown. They've destroyed downtown in Fall River. Other communities are building up their downtowns because they can. Fall River can't because we have a courthouse.
And he stuck it right in the middle of the downtown.
Right in the middle of the downtown. We have all that senior housing, okay, all over the place.
Which isn't going to go anywhere.
Which isn't going anywhere, okay? And then you've got a few commercial buildings which aren't in the best condition. As a matter of fact, recently a brick fell off one, almost killed someone. So you have a lot of work to do.
And not only that, market rate housing. Who's going to move to downtown Fall River?
Right.
Well,
with no parking.
With no parking, junkies all over the place, criminals walking around all day in and out of the courthouse, no businesses anymore. I mean, it's like they have never gotten the economic perspective. They put the cart before the horse.
Right.
We bring, these people are going to come. Why are they going to come? They're going to take advantage of our failing schools? Are they going to take advantage of us being number one in crime? You people are nuts. They've been trying market rate housing, and they've proven market rate housing doesn't work in cities like Fall River.
That's right.
It didn't work in Baltimore. It doesn't work in lower socioeconomic cities. All you succeed in doing is making the developer rich short term, and then they just move away.
That's it. And leave the properties to either become derelict or become Section 8.
That's right.
And
Point Gloria,
and it creates
Riverview Towers.
Well, maybe that's how we have to create more affordable housing or public housing. It's not affordable. Well, everyone, I want to thank you all for watching. I want you to remember, we're here to keep you informed. On Wednesday, we will have our guest host, Nelson Vasquez. He has some more information to bring you. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Wednesday.